I greet the church in the wonderful name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. As we start our week of prayer today, our first speaker is a true soldier of the Lord, and her name is Sr T Moolman. She is married to Chris Moolman from Kabika Church, and they are blessed with two beautiful twins who are almost 2 years old. Tammy is passionate about healthy living and believes that the health message is the right hand of the gospel. She has been a blessing to me. and many others through her platform, which is called Palatable Plants, which you will find on YouTube or Instagram. She shares loads of recipes, and she also shares how one can transition to a healthy lifestyle. Something that she always says is she wants to serve the Lord despite her shortcomings. And as she has been an inspiration to me, I pray that she will be an inspiration to all those that will be listening to her tonight. May you be blessed as she allows God to use her as his mouthpiece. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I was going to say welcome because I'm standing in the front of the church, but welcome to those of you who are at home and who are viewing from the comfort of your home. When I said yes to doing this talk, I was in a really good place. Then the devil attacked. I fell so far down the rabbit hole, I wondered if I would come out of it this time. Yet, here I am to deliver a message that will hopefully touch even just one person. Even just today, before doing this recording, I was tossed to and fro by the enemy. Many times I've wanted to pull out and say, I just can't do it. I've asked God, why have you chosen me? Why have you sent me? Why, God? Why have you chosen me, someone who fails so often, to deliver a message for you? I wanted to quit and run away and hide. But then again, I also don't want to spend 3 days inside of a fish. In accepting this request, I was practicing the spirit of I will go. It's not always easy, and life's burdens can get in the way, and we can find 1,000 reasons why we can't say I will go. The devil will make you feel worthless and so sinful that you feel that you'll be of no use to God in any way. These are lies from the enemy. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never harm me, can't be farther from the truth. The devil doesn't always beat you down physically in order to break you. Sometimes he whispers words into your ears that can crush your soul. In moments like these, I sing out a song. I sing out a love song to Jesus, singing, I love you, Lord, singing, I love you, Lord. This is the longest talk I've ever had to do, and it's probably not long enough still. And that's another reason why I wanted to pull out. I felt inadequate. I'm not a preacher, and I'll probably have to read my entire talk, so excuse me for reading the talk. At least it's behind the computer, the computer's behind the recorder this time, so it doesn't look so obvious. I'm not standing reading off of a page like I normally would. But these are kinds of excuses that we come up with as to why we can't deliver a message for God. But I'm reminded that the messenger is not the spotlight, and it's the message of God that is the focal point. The greatest warriors of the cross are those that, despite the enemy's blows, will say, here I am, Lord, send me, I will go. I think before I start my talk, we can just bow our heads in prayer. Dear Lord, I feel privileged to be standing here delivering a message for you today, Lord, and I am thankful that you've gotten me through all the difficulties that I've gone through to be able to be standing here to deliver the message, and I thank you for giving me the courage not to give up and not to quit. And I pray that even if one life is touched by the message that you have today through me, then it would be worth my while. I pray that you can speak through me and that it will be simple to understand and motivating and encouraging to those who are watching. I pray this in your name, Lord. Amen. I used to work in the health and beauty industry, and as much as your basic income comes from doing treatments, the earning potential, lays mostly in product sales. So that's where most of the earning potential in general is from. I mean, you get your income from doing the treatments, doing the massages and whatever. But what gives you a better earning potential is the money that you can get by selling something to that client afterwards. I'm not very good at sales at all. I'm not a pushy person, and I generally tend to offer kindly, and if my recommendation is rejected, I just leave it at that. I don't push any further. But this is not the right kind of attitude to have for a salesperson. My personality just wasn't suited for sales until I realized it wasn't because I was a bad salesperson, but my integrity did not allow me to recommend something to someone that I really didn't feel that they needed or wasn't such a great product. You know, it was too expensive for something. In my opinion, there are no miracle creams that will take away your cellulite, your wrinkles, your scars, or your emotional problems, which is most often the case as to why people buy. If I wouldn't personally purchase that product and use it, it was very unlikely that I was, able to sell it to someone else. And when I had my own salon, I realized that my retail skills had suddenly improved because I was able to sell products that I was confident in. Because I knew my clients personally, I was able to recommend according to their specific needs. I also realized that certain clients wanted to purchase products based on what they saw me using. So my example led them to question about the products and intrigued them more than if I sat there rambling on about a product, giving them the sales pitch. So if today my eyelashes or whatever looked good and a client happened to notice that and ask about it, that might guarantee a sale of this lash serum, for instance, because I was an example of the benefits of using that product. I was able to entice them to inquire without me having to say the first word. I just needed to provide an example for them to observe, for their interest to be piqued. People are watching you all the time, and whether you realize it or not, as a Christian, your daily actions are a representation of what God has to offer to others. And also I'd like to mention, just as a Christian in general, you're under a lot more scrutiny than the average person. People seem to hold you to a higher standard. They seem to hold you to your own standard. I'll give you an example of how I realized how obvious this was, and people in my church might have heard this story before because I have said it, but I call it the chocolate story. And I was standing in the shop, waiting to pay, and I had my groceries in my trolley or whatever. And, the marketers, they are really good at what they do. That is why they have the sweets and all the tempting things at the pay points, because while you're standing and waiting, your eyes are gazing around and they want your attention to be fixated on that. And I just looked to the left, and I had a long journey with chocolate, and I am like a chocolate lover still to this day. I don't eat it anymore. And at that time I was wrestling between knowing that I shouldn't eat it and wanting to eat it, and I hadn't for a long time. And as I looked to the left, there was this display, like a huge display of my favorite chocolate at the time. It was these slabs of chocolate, and they were on special, so you could buy like 2 and get a discounted price or something. And so I stood there for a split second. It didn't even take me long to decide what to do. I went over, grabbed a chocolate, or probably two chocolates. And they're not little chocolates, like a slab of chocolate. And I put them in my basket and I went back to the queue. And then I noticed this person behind me also starting to stare at the chocolate stand. He had been standing there the whole time. He hadn't looked at the chocolate stand, but now suddenly, since I walked over and put 2 in my basket, he went over and took 2 into his basket as well. I felt so disgusted with myself because I wondered if I had not taken that chocolate, if the person behind me would not have taken that chocolate either. And it's easier to do something when someone else has done it. And so I had become an example, and not a good example, to someone else. And let's face it, if they wanted or needed that chocolate, it would have been in their basket already. But it wasn't. It only got there after I had made the decision to put it there. And that story sort of bugs me it's bugged me since then. But it helps me to remember that people are watching you all the time, and whether it was subconscious or whether he actually looked at the chocolate that I had taken and thought, wow, I need chocolate too, it doesn't matter. The example was still there, and perhaps if I had practiced some restraint, it would have been easier for him to practice restraint as well. Your happiness for this life and the future immortal life lies with yourself. How important is it that everyone consider where he is leading souls? Where are we in view of the eternal world? And how diligently we should count the cost of our influence. That's from ML 120.4. So with this in mind, let's come back to be an example in the salon for the sale of products. I realize the same is true for, spreading the word of God. How for God if I didn't have confidence in what He was offering? If I didn't use God's products for myself, how could I be an example, and how could I deliver a convincing reason for choosing to follow Him? Joshua 1 verse 8 says, "The book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success." Effective product sales requires a study of the product in order to answer any and all questions that the client might have. As a salesperson, you undergo weeks of product training, and you have to study everything there is to know about the product that you are selling. You have to know the product in and out. You could say that a salesperson would meditate on it day and night. 2 Timothy 2 verse 5 says, "Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth." You can't sell a product that you have never personally tried. That would make you a fraud. And the same goes for the gospel and sharing the gospel with others. If you are not personally reaping the benefits of a life consecrated to Christ, then you won't be able to effectively convince anyone to follow Christ. There's another way that some people are good at sales and, getting clients to buy stuff, and that's by being pushy and by basically not giving the client an option to say no. When I did brief sales training, a friend of mine who worked on the ships explained that in their sales training, which is quite a hectic sales training, I think it's like 3 weeks that they literally just learn how to sell products to clients. It might even be longer if I'm not mistaken. They were taught to accept no only on the 3rd time. So if a client said no, you had to continue your sales pitch until they said no 3 times. So you give your sales pitch, the client says no. You carry on your sales pitch, they say no. Carry on your sales pitch, they say no. If that's not pushy, I don't know what is. And I mean, personally, I can't stand those people that bombard you when you're walking through the mall and they are selling everything in the middle there and they just want to tell you about how great their product is. If you've experienced their sales tactics, you can get an idea of what it's like to be in sales. You kind of have to push your way through the door. And one other sales tactic that these ladies that worked on the ship would use when a client said that they needed to ask their husband, which in the beauty industry world is code for, I don't really want the product. So then often they would say, I will have to ask my husband. Sometimes there may be a legitimate reason that they need to ask their husband. Most of the case, they don't really need to ask their husband. They just are looking for a way out without specifically saying no, because this is also what salespeople understand, is that people struggle to say no for some or other reason. You feel bad, you don't want to offend someone. So instead of saying, no, I don't want the product, they would say something like, I would have to ask my husband. And now a lot of these tactics were used on the ships. So you'll have the spa on the cruise liners. And what these therapists were taught to do was to take the client to the reception and say, here is a phone, please phone your husband, and ask him if it would be okay that you take the product with you. We will put it on your account, so you don't even have to pay right now. So you literally just walk out of the salon or out of the spa with this product in your hand. You've had no transactions, and at the end of the cruise, you'll just get a bill for all the money you've spent, and it just kind of blends in with all the drinks and whatever games and gambling and whatever other things, you know, you partake in on these cruise liners. So this pushiness is just like part of the kinds of things that you do as a salesperson. Obviously, every industry is different, and I can only speak from personal experience from the industry that I was once in. And while I was working at a spa, there was this girl who had experience on working the ships as well, and she was excellent at sales. But this was her approach. No was not an option. This girl was so good at sales, her salary far exceeded the salary of any of the other girls that worked there. It's pretty much doubled compared to the girls. My salary was probably the lowest, and I was living off my basic income without ever really the benefit of commission. Every now and then I'd get commission here and there, but it was so minuscule it wasn't even worth. My tips sometimes were bigger than my commission. So looking to her for sales tactics seemed like a wise idea. And one day a lady walked into the spa, and I was standing behind the desk, or standing just to the side of the desk with the receptionist. And this lady walked in shamefaced, and the receptionist recognized her from the day before, and she walked up to the counter with the parcel, and she placed the parcel on the counter. And she had explained that the previous day she had practically been forced to purchase this product that she just really could not afford and didn't need. And she was now returning it for a refund. And this excellent salesperson had made her purchase this product. This woman was incredibly embarrassed and ashamed, and the receptionist was moved with compassion and processed the refund for her. But after witnessing that incident, I determined never to do that to anyone. And my minuscule sales income decreased even more, so just seemed like there was no hope for me. In spreading the gospel, this would be called Bible bashing and conversion by fear. It's not lasting, and although it might appear to be convincing, and they might accept the offer on the spot, they might return that offer the next day, or the next week, because it's not really what they were hoping for, or it's not really what they needed. When sharing the gospel, the most effective approach is getting to know the product yourself. Being confident in what God can offer is first and foremost. Without knowing God's goodness, it will be impossible to effectively share it with others, and I can't stress this enough. The next thing to know is your client. Different approaches work for different people. Some may need to hear about God's love and forgiveness. Others may need to hear about heaven and hope. Others may be seeking a light rebuke for their actions. We need to be sensitive to the needs of other people before we can offer our confident recommendation. We have to remember, though, that we cannot read the heart. Ourselves faulty, we are not qualified to sit in judgment upon others. Finite men can judge only from outward appearance. To him alone who knows the secret springs of action and who deals tenderly and compassionately, it is given to decide the case of every soul. And that's from the Thoughts from the Mount of Blessing, 124. One sales tactic that I despised, which was also used in this industry or it's still used in this industry, is pointing out what was wrong with the client. For example, you have bad pigmentation on your forehead. This broke down the client's confidence and self-esteem and opened a way for recommendation and product sales. So you make the person feel bad about themselves, so you create a problem, and now obviously they need a solution to this problem. And this type of approach, in my experience, does not win souls if you're comparing it to a biblical comparison. Pointing out people's sins and flaws, leaving them broken and bruised, is no way to win a soul. I know that is the approach of some people. I have never found it to be successful. To break down another person in order to get them to do what you want them to do, it's never the good way to do something. And God's message is not a message of guilt and shame. It's a different story if the client inquires about the pigmentation herself, because then she is aware of the problem. She is searching for a solution. but offering a solution to a problem that someone is barely aware of, it only creates feelings of degradation. So, Thoughts from the Mount of Blessings 126 tells us, when men indulge in this accusing spirit, they are not satisfied with pointing out what they suppose to be a defect in their brother. If milder means of making him do what they think ought to be done, they will resort to compulsion. Not until you feel you could sacrifice your own dignity and even lay down your life in order to save an erring brother have you cast the beam out of your own eye, so that you are prepared to help your brother. No one has ever been reclaimed from a wrong position by censure and reproach, but many have thus been driven from Christ and led to seal their hearts against conviction. A tender spirit, a gentle, winning deportment may save the erring and hide a multitude of sins. The revelation of Christ in your own character will have a transforming power upon all whom you come in contact. Let Christ be daily made manifest in you, and he will reveal through you the creative energy of his word, a gentle, persuasive, yet mighty influence to recreate other souls in the beauty of the Lord our God. That's also from Thoughts from the Mount of Blessing, chapter 6. It's actually really an excellent chapter. It's got a lot of information about this particular topic. That is from page 128. The voice is an entrusted talent, and it should be used to help and encourage and strengthen our fellow men. This is also a quote from Ellen White. Just this week, I received an email from Jim and Sally Homburger. I received their subscription email. They run Empowered Living Ministry. And this is what they had to say. The truly converted person has no inclination to think or talk of the faults of others, and real Christians will not exult in exposing others' flaws, faults and deficiencies. He who covers a transgression seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates friends. That's from Proverbs 17 verse 9. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. That's Colossians 4 verse 6. This is something I particularly struggle with in my own personal life, and particularly in my closer relationships. Guarding the tongue is no easy task, and lives are lost and lives are saved by the tongue. It's no wonder God has placed such emphasis on it. Proverbs 18 verse 21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof." Righteous words and deeds have more powerful influence for the good than all the sermons that can be preached. Another quote by Ellen White. There are also times when you come across someone that you don't have the time to get to know. Not everyone you meet might have a spare moment that you can do a mini sermon with, In these instances, being a good example speaks volumes, and also in most of these cases, the Holy Spirit can lead you to know what to offer at that very moment, because you don't have a chance to get to know the person. That is also why we need a constant connection with God, so that when we're unsure of what to recommend, the Holy Spirit can guide us. Romans 8 verse 14 says, "For as many are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God." Sometimes in the industry, recommendations seem fruitless, but a few days or weeks or even months later, a client may return to inquire more about that product or even to purchase it. That has happened quite a few times in my industry. Sometimes people just need to mull over something. They need to research. I'm that type of person. I will never make a purchase on the spot. It's very rare. I probably overthink about everything that I'm going to purchase. Some people just need more time, and we may not always see the fruits of our labor in the spiritual world, or perhaps the fruits are only witnessed in years to come. Sometimes we won't even see it. Maybe we die before those fruits are witnessed, and we grow despondent in these situations. But we need to remember that we planted the seed, and the seed is planted, and the rest is not up to us. The client may be mulling over, researching, doing further questioning about the product, asking other people without you being aware of it, and one day they may be convicted or convinced that this is exactly what they need. There are instances where those seeds need cultivating from us, but not every single time. Sometimes an introduction is all that is needed. And a thought just popped to mind when I was scrolling on YouTube. There's this series of, it's like a Bible movie series called The Chosen. And one of the headlines that I saw, I hadn't actually watched the video, but it really made me think. The title of the video was, you don't need to feed the 5,000, you just need to provide the fish and the bread. And the same goes for all our spiritual encounters. It's not up to us to save a person. We can't do any saving. We are laborers and we do what we can, but we can't do more than that. We make ourselves available and God does the rest. The captain of our salvation says, "Advance, the night cometh in which no man can work." Constantly we are to increase in usefulness. Our lives are always to be under the power of Christ. Our lamps are to be kept burning brightly. ML 109. So we need to start testing out what God has to offer, so that when the time comes, our sales pitch can be true, it can be specific to the client's needs, and it can be spirit-led. And in times where a sales pitch is not guaranteed, our example can do the convincing for us. Christ's followers are sent to the world with a message of peace. Whoever by quiet, unconscious influence of a holy life shall receive the love of Christ, whoever by word or deed shall lead another to renounce sin and yield his heart to God, is a peacemaker. Also Ellen White from the Thoughts from the Mount of Blessing, page 28. And blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. The spirit of peace is evidence of their connection with heaven. The sweet savor of Christ surrounds them. The fragrance of the life, the loveliness of the character, reveal to the world the fact that they are children of God. Men take knowledge of them that they have been with Jesus. Everyone that loveth is born of God, and if any man have not the Spirit of Christ, he is none of his. But as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. And this is in reference to 1 John 4 verse 7 and Romans 8 verse 9 and 14, also from Thoughts from the Mount of Blessing. And the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many people, as a dew from the Lord, and the showers upon the people. And as the showers upon the people, and the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many people, as a dew from the Lord, as the showers upon the grass, that tarrieth not for man, nor waiteth for the sons of men. And that's in reference to Micah 5 verse 7, also from the Thoughts from the Mount of Blessing, page 28. I came across a song on YouTube that was mixed up with a bunch of other old a cappella hymns, and I searched high and low for this song, like the lyrics. I just came up empty each time. I typed in the lyrics on Google, I typed the lyrics in on Facebook, I typed the lyrics in on YouTube, and I just could not find anything about it. So I decided to listen to the song and do it old school and literally write out what I had heard. But 2 days ago, a friend came through for me, and she sent me a link to the song as well as the words. So I'm going to read the words to you. It's really a beautiful song. It was too profound to pass by, and it just matched exactly what I was talking about. So the timing of it was just perfect. I'm going to read the words to you. Who will go and tell the world that Jesus is the way? Who will brave the dark of night to bring the light of day? All around are captive hearts that yearn to be free. God is calling his children. Who will go for me? I will go and tell the world that Jesus is the way. I will brave the dark of night to bring the light of day. There are those who do not know God's holy word is true. I can hear you calling, Lord. I will go for you. Who will share God's love at home or in a foreign land? Who will share his hope with those who need a helping hand? Who will share the joyful news with those who need to know? Jesus died for the world. My children, who will go? I will share God's love at home or in a foreign land. I will share his hope with those who need a helping hand. Jesus lives, proclaim the news so all the world may know. I can hear you calling, Lord. I can hear you calling, and I will gladly go. Friends, with this message in mind, Jesus is calling. Will you go? Let's bow our heads. Dear Lord, the words of that song really tugged at my heart, and life is difficult. We come across challenges every single day. It's hard to put everything that we care about aside to work for you and offer. But you are calling, Lord, especially in these last days. There are people that want to hear your truth, that are looking for it, and you need laborers. I pray that we'll keep this message in mind, Lord, and that we will go out, and when you call, we will say, here I am, Lord, send me, I will go. Amen.